Yeah, I think this one's going to be a short one. There's lots for me to say and there's lots of topics, but this stuck out to me. It's in chapter 9, starting from verse 12, and it's about that miracle where Jesus broke the bread and the fish and managed to feed 5,000. So from verse 12 it says, "And when the day began to wear away, they came, the 12, and said unto him, Send the multitude away, that they may go to the towns and to the country round about, and lodge and get vesticles, for we are here in a desert place." So they said, go and let them find provisions, because we're in a desert place and there's so many of them. And in verse 13, "But he said unto them, Give ye them to eat. And they said, We have no more than 5 loaves and 2 fishes, except we should go and buy meat for all these people." 14. "For they were about 5,000 men. And he said to his disciples, Make them sit down by 50s in a company. And they did so, and made them all sit down. Then he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looking up to heaven, he blessed them and brake them, and gave to the disciples to set before the multitude. And they did eat, and were all filled. And there was taken up fragments that remained to the 12 baskets." So he broke the bread and the fish to feed 5,000 peoples, and he set them down in groups of 50. And he gave the baskets to the disciples to go around and feed the individual people. And you know, they hardly had any food, and this is obviously a miracle. You know, how is it that they managed to feed those 5,000 people with only the 2 fishes and the 5 loaves? Quite incredible, really. And then there was left over when the baskets came back. But the reason why I wanted to share this, because it's well known, and I think, like, when people read the Bible, you read some of these miracles and you're like, yeah, I get it, you know, Jesus is powerful. But a lot of these stories or accounts, they have deeper meanings. And the meaning that I saw in this particular story this time is really pivoted around in verse 13, where Jesus says to them, "Give ye them to eat." And they were like, how can we give all these people to eat? We've only got like these 2 fishes and 5 loaves. We can't do it. Now this is the key. Jesus himself is the bread of life. He said earlier, didn't he, when we were talking about him in the wilderness, he said that no man shall live except by the word of God. You know, by this is what gives us spiritual life. And they were giving out the fish and the bread to kind of give them physical life. But when Jesus says here, "Give ye them to eat," you know, I kind of made the connected reference back to where Jesus is the bread of life, and how he said, you know, I live by bread that you don't understand. And, you know, the bread is the word of God, and Jesus is the word of God. And what he was saying to these people is, you know, give them to eat. Go and tell them about the gospel. Go and give them spiritual food. Go and pass that on. You don't need me. You can go out there and feed these people. And they put them round in groups of 50 and went round giving them bread. But you know, they could have just been given them the word. They were there because they were desperate. Jesus took compassion on them, performed a miracle, and gave them physical bread. To that there is no doubt. But when Jesus says, "Give ye them to eat," that's so powerful. It's like you can pass on teaching and sharing. It's like I am doing now. I'm passing on spiritual bread for you, and I've been given it by Jesus. As Jesus gave the bread to the disciples, and the disciples gave the bread to the companies of 50s, that's just what's happening right now. So you can give bread to people from what you've learned. Now what's interesting here, I'm sorry, I'm distracted by the people that's behind me. What's interesting here is you can go out at any time and feed people with the bread that you've been given. And as they put down the people into companies of 50, for me that's like a connection to the church. Church congregations, the ones that I go to at the moment, that's in about a group of 50. And I don't see that there's anything wrong with church congregations. But, here is a picture of how the disciples should act in the future. They'll be given bread, and they're to pass on that bread to other people in groups of 50. I don't see anything wrong with that. It could be house groups, it could be churches, but the point here is to pass on the spiritual bread to the rest of the world so that they can be fed and not starve to death.